Hey Kyle, how's it going?
I'm well. How are you, man?
I'm good, thanks.
So, Tomorrow's Daughter, you and I talked right before the last record came out, and you had sort of laid it all out for us and everything that there was going to be all these leftovers. And the fans were going to get these, and now we're finally seeing it. The folks that didn't sign up and help you out with the record, we're finally hearing these. I don't know. Is it right to call this set leftovers, or is it an addition?
I think it's more an addition. I mean, to me, it feels more like a real album than leftovers. I put the songs together at the same time I was finishing Tomorrow Forever because I liked how some of them coalesced and, had wished to put all of them, on an album. But the first, bunch of songs kind of became what Tomorrow Forever was, and then there was this other thing, and very few people got it with the Kickstarter, and it was only as a download and not mastered or anything. And I probably said to you before, I really hoped it would get released so those songs would be out there sort of officially. And I'm delighted that it's come together this quickly to release it, and it's gotten really good response. So I think it holds its own.
Now, you said you kind of heard them together. Is it that you hear a thread, or is it, I don't know, maybe more the feel of the record?
I think it's more the feel of it. I don't know. I have been asked what are the connections emotionally, and I'm sure, it's all different kind of feelings like I would always have in a bunch of my songs, So it's not so much the way it relates to the other record, but that it's kind of an offspring of the same session.
I've got some instant favorites off of here that I would love to ask about, too.
Sure.
First off, Lady Frankenstein. You've written about monsters sort of, here and there in the past, and this one follows in that great canon of your monster songs. Is there a story behind this one?
Well, it's funny. I always really liked Frankenstein, and I read the book when I was really young, like one of the first serious adult books I tried to read, So it's funny with the song, the universal monster, Frankenstein and everything, we thought of him as Frankenstein, whereas in the book, we know Frankenstein's the doctor that creates the monster, and Frankenstein's monster just is called the monster. Mm-hmm. In my song, though, it's more like the universal horror movie thing where Frankenstein means the monster. I've been trying to explain that when I'm asked about it. But it's an imaginary thing where both he and, she's really Bride of Frankenstein, Mm-hmm. And it was also kind of a joke with my wife and I because we used to have these huge black and white sort of stand-up must have been from some screening in a theater for Bride of Frankenstein. So we had these big stand-ups of the two of them, and we used to put them in our windows of our house when we were first in Los Angeles. And so we always kind of had this joke thing, and I would call her Lady Frankenstein. But in the song, both the monster and the lady are made up of parts of other people, and it's kind of supposed to be funny, I guess. He's saying, don't despair, you're beautiful despite her face, whoever like you were made from. And, I can hold you with his arms, other than them really necessarily being their own. And somehow it kind of hits at a thing in relationships where we all have faults, and it's kind of about accepting each other.
I mean, it's hard to write a unique love song with sort of an original idea this far into the canon of pop songs of the 20th and 21st century. So to have something like this come along, it's really applaudable. The big hand claps for you on that one.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I didn't think about it a lot. It just kind of popped out, and it was sort of amusing to me. And it was one of the songs that really had a kind of kinetic thing about it, and the recording of it. And so I'm delighted that it's seen the light of day.
Now, speaking of love songs, I'll ask about another one a little bit further down the record, is Ever After. First off, is that mandolin I'm hearing in that one?
Well, you're hearing actually sped up guitar, probably a sped up acoustic, where I'm playing along to the track, and the track is going half speed, like really slow. And then when it's sped back up, that little part I played is super high and fast, kind of. Now, there may also be regular mandolins on it. I'm not sure. I know that Val McCallum played on it, and he definitely did something acoustic on it. I'd have to look back at the credits to remember exactly what. But yeah, that little thing, it's kind of a little bit stolen from Lindsey Buckingham. Like, I think he did that, where he'd record guitars at half speed and then put the tape up to full speed, and they would have that, gossamer little high, and they're sort of like tightly wound. They kind of jump out and do these little fast runs.
It's a seriously cool studio trick. I would have never have guessed it. I mean, that's a...
Yeah, I really love doing it. I always wonder if it sort of annoys people or whatever, but
cool.
But I like making the sound. It's pretty cool, and you never know exactly what it's gonna sound like sped up. So for me, I'll just try a bunch of different things, and then they end up being little bits that fly in and out.
Now, I don't know if you kind of structured it thematically this way, but following Ever After is Show Me, and I started thinking about how that and a few of the following tracks all work together, and I thought, how we start with the best intentions and promises.
Yeah, I think, that's a great idea. I mean, I don't know if I thought about it that way specifically, but, I always, on my records, want to get a wide range of feelings and viewpoints. The records I loved growing up, the Beatles and stuff, always have like a bunch of different kinds of songs. So there's that going on. And then there's partly just certain things feel right coming after other things or before other things. And that was one of the things about Tomorrow's Daughter, is it really felt like I was putting together an album, and it had a natural flow to it when I did it at the same time as the other record.
Now, looking at some of the credits, did I read that Rod Argent and Gary Lewis are on these sessions? Are they on these?
Rod Argent is on Tomorrow Forever, but both his songs are on that record. Gary, let me think. I don't think Gary's on this one either, but it's everybody else. Jason Victor and John Mormon playing guitar, Val McCallum playing slide and guitars and things. There's a couple songs that Val, I think at least a song that Val plays kind of everything on. So it's the people from the record before, but just not those two, because they only worked on a couple songs each, and both those were on Tomorrow Forever.
Gotcha. Now, are there still more songs from this session? Because that's a lot of songs with the two records put together.
There are. One song, a song called Lonely Summer, came out on a Canadian benefit for heart disease, and so it's seen the light of day a little bit. It's kind of cool because it's sort of a surfy song, a little bit like The Searcher from Tomorrow Forever. But yeah, there's another bunch of songs, and some of them I really liked, and almost would have put on Tomorrow's Daughter. But I guess it's good to have a few extras, so sometime in the future we can, release extra things. I mean, that's happening with these vinyl reissues that are coming through a label called Intervention Records, and also a Pledge Music campaign that we did with them. And they've found all kinds of old unreleased tracks or things that weren't on albums, and each album of Girlfriend, Altered Beast, and 100% Fun are 2 discs and include all this stuff that wasn't on the album. So it's always nice to have those kind of things, a few things that are, hidden gems or whatever, not to make that great a claim. And so I think there can be those few songs that didn't get on either of the records, and I'm sure we'll use them for something sometime.
Well, I'm looking really forward to those vinyl editions ever since you announced those. What can you tell us about some of those recently found tracks? I mean, were they surprising to you? Do you remember all of those moments?
I remember them, kind of once I hear them and know about it. There's still these records are in progress, so on a couple of them I haven't heard the extra discs yet. There's my manager, Russell Carter. His son, Adrian, has really been sort of curating that whole project and gone the extra mile and coming up with amazing liner notes and, really digging out some of those things that I would never have just remembered off the top of my head. So I think it'll be fun for people to sort of check it out. And it's, everything's remastered really nicely. And we even found a live recording from Chicago XRT at a big outdoor festival that was probably in 93 or 4. And at some point we might stick that on vinyl as well.
Oh, cool.
It's fun making vinyl. I have a whole another record that I made early last year, and it originally was going to have a couple of guys from Cheap Trick playing on it, and then they couldn't do it sort of in the time frame I was working on it, so I went ahead and finished it with just Jason Victor and I. So it's Rick Mank and me and Jason Victor, and that record is called Wicked System of Things, and it's only coming out on vinyl on Record Store Day this fall, which I believe is Black Friday.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so there's even more. I'm really glutting the market with stuff this year.
I'll take it, man.
And then, I'll start kind of clear slate. The thing, Wicked System was a thing that could have fallen between the tracks and not really gotten out there in any timely fashion. But because there's this world of vinyl and we've been going to record stores and seeing firsthand the enthusiasm about it, it allows me to kind of, release something without necessarily pushing it as my new album, so to speak,
Yeah, no, for fans, this couldn't be a better time, really. The way that a lot of the artists are treating it, both on vinyl and, digital singles here and there and stuff like that, it really is a cool time.
Yeah, because, there's no hurt to making lots of new music and having something to tour around. And even though we don't sell huge amounts of records, we sell little amounts of records that help us, make another one. So yeah, it is kind of a good time, and it's been, obviously a big output of stuff for me. But I still, have been storing new seed ideas, and I feel like I'll feel strong making a next record. So I think it is a period that's a good one for me.
Well, I hope you don't mind jumping in the Wayback Machine for a minute while we're sort of talking about these older records, because as it happens to be this year, the 25th anniversary of Altered Beast, which has this sort of comparison with Tomorrow's Daughter, because it had its own son of Altered Beast. Are you going to be doing anything beyond? Do you do the full album shows or anything, or have you thought about doing that with that one?
We did it for Girlfriend, and it lasted a few years because everybody wanted it. And but we've never done it on another album. I'd like to. I guess I don't know. People know Girlfriend so well, and the real diehard fans know Altered Beast. It would be fun to do Altered Beast, I think, but we haven't really talked about it. We focus more on a mixture of oldies. We definitely play some songs from Altered Beast. We play Devil with the Green Eyes and Ugly Truth. We'll play Time Capsule. It seems like there's something else I'm not thinking of. So we do touch on lots of Altered Beast songs in our set, and they're always fun to play.
What do you remember about that? Because, this was the record that followed Girlfriend. You finally get your breakthrough hit. Was there any sense of urgency as you went into that one, into Altered Beast?
For me, it was just more like Kid in a Candy Store, and I just went in and did whatever I wanted, and I really didn't take a break before making the record. I went straight into it, and my wife was in Princeton where our stuff got packed up, and we moved as I was kind of finishing the album to Los Angeles. So it was a somewhat rootless time for me. It was just out there hanging out in Los Angeles, and Richard Dashett was sort of teaching me all about LA. And I think that the reaction to Altered Beast felt like a basic not as good as Girlfriend, from a sort of commercial standpoint. But diehard fans really liked it. I really liked it. I felt it was artistic. I did what I wanted to do. But it was a little bit of a difficult time for me, once we released it and we're promoting it, because I was having some of my worst sort of mental problems, and that was when I stopped flying for a few years. And part of that, I think, was just a reaction to how fast Girlfriend had become successful and how much just pure promo work I had to do in going out and getting around everywhere and playing. So I think of it a little bit as a time when I felt sort of challenged. But the experience of making the record was great, and some of the people who were on it were so great. Nicky Hopkins was great on it. Greg Lease, as always. I had met Pete Thomas in England, where we recorded the Someone to Pull the Trigger that ended up on that album. and he had just moved to LA, so he played on some stuff. We got Mick Fleetwood to play on a couple songs. All the rest of my guys played on it. So it was a real fun sort of time in the studio, and just sort of a bit of a party kind of in the recording studio. It was still a time when, everybody didn't have studios of their own yet,
Sort of looking back on it, and The Ugly Truth being, one of the singles off that one, 2 versions, but you did put a fiddle in one of the versions at the height of alternative. Grunge was still happening big time.
It was just because I dug the Plane, and that was, I guess, Byron Berline, I think. I was interested in country and stuff. I was a big fan of, like, Graham Parsons. That his sort of country rock probably was the main influence in my using the fiddle, but also, even before that, on Girlfriend, using pedal steel. And when I met Greg Lease, I said, do you know, like, the Burrito Brothers and Graham Parsons? And he's like, oh, yeah, I know them, And so I found someone who could kind of do that. And it was, in a way, kind of country rock, at least one of the versions with the fiddle. Yeah, I don't know if it had coalesced into that kind of alt-country movement yet, but there were certainly people around that were headed toward that.
Now, also that same year, we got the No Alternative compilation, which had Super Deformed, which has gone on to become this classic record in itself. If you're a part of that, it's sort of a big deal these days still. I don't know if you saw that coming, who would have guessed the importance of really that compilation in an era that, soundtracks and comps were huge.
Yeah. Well, I remember even at the time, it was really cool how much support it got. And, I knew Victoria. I'd known her, and she sort of opened for some Golden Palominos shows when I was playing with them. And so it was a no-brainer to offer to do something for the record. And and for, many years we also played Super Deformed. We haven't played it lately, but that'd be a fun one to bring out sometime.
I'll bring up one more track that's sort of getting the big round number right now, was Farther Down, that happened on the Can't Hardly Wait soundtrack.
Can't Hardly Wait. I loved Can't Hardly Wait. I knew the directors pretty well, and even though I did just a tiny bit of music for it, and then I had a song in it, I got a co-scoring credit on the movie because of some, legality. And if you've done more than a certain number of minutes, then they have to share the credit with you. So I always felt kind of guilty for the guy that really scored the movie. But I think he scored millions of other things, so it's okay. But I really got to know some of the actors, Seth, and I even once had a party. And, I never had parties. I really don't. I'm not a very social person, and I kind of never have people over. But we had a big party with all those kids from Can't Hardly Wait, and they all came to my house and hung out and played the drums and stuff, and it was really fun. I still have a big photo of them from the movie that they all signed for me. So that was a happy experience, and I liked that song.
It's a great soundtrack, and it's a movie that's definitely stamped in the era, but it's my era, and I certainly love watching it and hearing it.
Well, I hope it's a classic. I remember really liking the movie, and I came from liking, loving Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and the movies like, Pretty in Pink and Breakfast Club and that kind of stuff, like all those teen movies. I really watched a lot in my sort of early 20s. So to be a part of that kind of teen movie was, a treat.
No, it's certainly a classic for the teen movies of my era.
I was at a loss again. I was trying to think of John Hughes.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I meant to say.
I noticed, at least that I can tell, that I can find online for easy search and surface searching, except for 2008, you released a song on a compilation of some form from 1991 all the way to 2010.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's something I would not know.
Yeah, at least one every year except for 2008 that I'm aware of. So that's an amazing run right there.
That is amazing.
Anyway,
time flies.
Yeah, I do love listening to it all, and I appreciate you taking the time to jump back with me and to talk about Tomorrow's Daughter. I've really enjoyed listening to this one, and I'll look forward to the record store day one too on Black Friday. I can't wait to hear that.
All right, well, thanks so much. I really appreciate the support.
All right, Matthew, it's good talking to you again.
Same here.
All right, take care.